Thank you. Can you take that? Thank you. Great. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm happy you're happy. Well, thank you, Jacopo, for the kind introduction. And I don't have that much time because, I'm basically, my role here is to warm up the audience for the Georgian wine that it's coming very soon with Matt and Terry. So I'll try to be very quick. What I want to do here today are 4 things, basically. Try to analyze how Javier Milei reached to the presidency in Argentina, how also he became like a focal point of, I think, more profound processes that have been going on in the country and that make me very optimistic for the future. What his presidency means, and why Argentina can dream again. Very quickly, is this on? Thank you. Sorry, I don't know what's going on. Very quickly, a few words about my organization. We Are Innovation is a network of more than now 40 think tanks around the globe. As the name clearly says, we are in favor of innovation and human creativity. We have a stand here. My colleague Tanya Rack is also here with us. And tomorrow we'll be at the Liberty Fair. And if you complete the survey for us, you'll get a free beer. So, please don't lose that opportunity. If you want to know more about us, go to weareinnovation.global. Yeah, thank you. Okay, I'll try to wrap up 80 years of Argentinian history in the next couple of minutes. Argentina has, for a very long time, been dominated by a totally statist worldview. If we have to put a date, and dates, as you know, can be arbitrary, but I think this more or less makes sense. In 1946, when Juan Domingo Perón and his lovely wife Evita got into power in Argentina, this hegemony grew and grew and grew. The state was basically put in the driving seat of the economy, of social issues, of politics, of everything. And like populism in general, like Acemoglu and Robinson explain, this populist statist view grew like an oil stain and basically conquered the whole political spectrum. Both the Peronists and the opposition were basically statists competing to see who was the better statist. The situation went so wrong that even the militaries, which gave a lot of military coups in the history of Argentina, were also Peronists. Basically, they just didn't like Perón, and they certainly didn't like Evita. But that was basically the basic situation. And of course, this long march towards institutions didn't stop in the political sphere. The educational apparatus run by the state, basically, and media also became mouthpieces for the status quo. As you can imagine, navigating this jungle for advocates of free markets, for politicians, there were some that were free marketeers, were classical libertarians. It was extremely difficult. This very deep-seated worldview that took hold of Argentina's conception of everything, basically, was very costly for the country. This ended up transforming Argentina into a hyper-regulated, overtaxed economy run by a spendaholic government. That was basically the situation, and this created a lot of victims. Of course, businessmen and women, entrepreneurs, workers, naturally, savers. Nobody was safe. Investors, they were robbed again and again. But there was a group, almost an oligarchy, that grew under this statist populist umbrella that did very well. Their existence was extremely pleasant. Of course, politicians, public officials in general, state employees and employees of the companies run by the state, that at one point were a lot, receivers of handouts, all that people had a very easy living, basically not working and just getting a lot of money every month. Leave it there. Also, and we're talking of a process of decades, this generated an absolute echo chamber, because remember, all academia and media were also colonized. So this was basically people talking to themselves, and in the process of years, and I'm going to show you in a second something, in a process of years, this disconnected them more and more from society, which this eventually was, can we go to the next one, was definitely in our favor. Can we go to the next slide? Thank you. This is when Perón and Evita took power. Argentina was in the top 10 GDP per capita countries in the world. Look at that. That's up to 2019. It's lower probably now. But this is the kind, I mean, while there, in the end, they were discussing in their own echo chamber and celebrating how great they were, the economy, the country, paid a tremendous cost. However, as we have a different saying in Argentina, but as you say in English, even the longest night must end. Let's go to the next slide. This is Javier Milei's first recorded media appearance. This is from 2015. And I picked it because I think by 2015, again to put a date, which could be slightly arbitrary, by 2015, the king was naked. No matter how much propaganda the educational apparatus and media regurgitated, the decadence was palpable. You saw the graph before. You know, this is what happened with Argentina's GDP per capita. There has been in Argentina a very honorable tradition of classical liberal thinkers, think tanks. Mises was in Argentina. One of Mises's books come from the lectures he gave in Argentina. Hayek, Friedman. There have been public intellectuals, but no one could, let's say, have the kind of attachment with society that Javier has had. This definitely, I mean, Javier is a brilliant economist. That's, let's say, part of the equation. I really think, and I'm not saying this out of envy, his hair was also a part. There was clearly an aesthetic relationship with Javier, particularly from young people. Also, how he spoke in media was very important, particularly the first 3 years that he was in media. He was very much in your face, sometimes to the point of being offensive, and we can go why he did that and why that was very clever. But there was also something else going on, which I think, and this is, I mean, of course, Javier makes me extremely optimistic, but this makes me perhaps even more optimistic. Like I said, in 2015, the king was naked. The decadence was impossible to hide, no matter how much propaganda and stupid things you said. And there were trends that were taking Argentina finally, because we're talking of a process that lasted almost 8 decades, in the right direction. And one of the most important processes that happened is that liberalism became the counterculture. Liberalism not only, let's say, the left in this way was victim of its own success. The state is viewed, because you cannot be the establishment and the counterculture at the same time. It's one or the other. And really, when literally your grandfather, your father, your teachers, and everybody in TV is saying something, you know, if you want to rebel, it's difficult that you go in that direction. And that's what happened. Liberalism became the counterculture. Liberalism also incarnated the ideas that society was looking for, because they wanted to move out from the uber-statist system that Argentina had. And also, this is extremely important, and I think this is key to understand the phenomenon of Javier. Javier, definitely, he was the right man, but he was also at the right place at the right time, because liberalism also found very fertile soil in the same kind of social spaces, little spaces or cracks that young people and marginalized people and people who are not part of the mainstream find. Alternative media, social media, YouTube, memes, podcasts, all that, Javier was there at the right time when that was becoming the main way for everybody to communicate, to inform, etc., etc. And this, you have someone who's extremely talented, who has definitely the right ideas, and at the right moment, and this skyrocketed the capacity of classical liberalism to reach new audiences. And I want to show you a couple of examples of that. If we can go to the next slide, please, very quickly. Great. This is a band. I'm not endorsing this band. Let's say I have no idea what they do in general. This is a screenshot I took from a video they did in 2018. And let's go to the next slide, please. Just want to share a few. This is part of the lyrics. This is from 2018. In 2018, Javier Milei was a mere economist. He was not running for office. He would run for office 3 years later. Nobody really even thought that he would run for office by now. Just few things. First, look at the title. They are referring to him as the last punk, the last punk rocker, an economist, a libertarian economist in Argentina. And as you can see, the lyrics are redacted. Sorry for the censorship there. But a couple of things for you to pay attention. This is pure pop culture. This is pure pop culture from really like band from wherever. Take a look at some of the topics they are discussing in their lyrics, and they are topics that are very dear to our hearts, to the hearts of everybody who's here. The dangers of cronyism and Keynesianism. An anti-tax ethos, of course. Repulsion against state abuse. And denouncing the fake state solidarity that, we're the good guys, give us your money. And something that I find even more interesting is see how they portray Milei and the kind of associations that they make with Milei's ideas. Milei is the ultimate influencer and troll. They see him as the nemesis of the state, and that's why they love him. Liberalism, I'm using liberalism, libertarianism as synonyms here. In classical liberalism, they are all synonyms. Liberalism is portrayed not as the oppressor of the working class, but as the liberator. That never happened in Argentina. Being classical liberal was, you want the poor to be poorer, etc., you know all the mantras. And Milei, this really, when I heard this song for the first time, it really gave me the goosebumps. Milei is their superhero. I mean, a libertarian economist. Let's go to the next slide. Another group that quickly understood what Milei was presenting to society and became staunch Milei supporters were gig economy workers. These guys understand the changes in the labor market. They understand the powers of platforms. They understand the freedom and the flexibility they have to be associated with those platforms. And they went so far not only to support Milei vehemently, but they organized several, not one, not two, but several anti-union demonstrations because the government wanted to forcefully unionize them. And they went against that. And Milei even reached the final frontier. Let's go to the next slide and let's see if we can play the video. It takes 30 seconds only. This is the high school. No. What they shouted was "Viva la libertad, carajo!" By the way, you cannot understand it very much. This is a high school. This is a high school. This is during the campaign. I've never thought in my life I would see 15 and 16-year-olds, boys and girls, cheering for a libertarian ever. And this really happened. Let's go to the next slide, please. I have 5 minutes and 30 seconds. I have to. In 2019, Because these are some anecdotes, but this is also, and there are a lot of things that I could show you, but I don't have time. But in 2019, We Are Innovation organized an opinion poll in 5 Latin American countries. We were not looking for which was a country with more startups, or which was a country with more venture capital, but what were the views of people in those countries regarding innovation, regarding regulation, and regarding many things. The study is very long, and I can happily share it with you. You can find it on our website, by the way, in English and Spanish. This is just one slide of that study. 85% of people in Argentina thought that encouraging innovation was crucial for job creation and economic growth. The study, as I said, is very, very big, but one of the main conclusions is that there was a deep desire for more innovation and greater openness. Desires that had not been met for a very long time from any of the members of the political class. And there was a huge gap, and I'm sure there's a huge gap in the whole of Latin America, and I think we're going to have very good news from Latin America very soon. But in Argentina, that was very clear, that society wanted one thing, and the political class was in their own echo chamber discussing who was the best statist and the best guy who was going to forbid everything, basically. Let's go to the next slide. And this is also something extremely key. I really like this phrase from Peter Thiel. I know it's not genius, perhaps, but I think it's very clever in the sense, Thiel a few years ago said, for the future to have power over the present, it has to be different from the present. And Milei brought the future back to the conversation. Milei embodied perfectly a complete rupture with the past. And that made him extremely popular because he was saying we were all the time going in this direction and we have to do a total U-turn and go exactly in the opposite direction. If you ask me, of all the candidates that we have last year, the voters of Milei, percentagely were the ones that understood the best what their candidate was saying. Let's go to the next slide. And that allowed Milei to basically run a campaign that in any point of history in Argentina, and I would dare to say in any part of the world, would have been self-destructive border suicide. Because Milei, in a nutshell, was proposing blood, sweat, and tears. The chainsaw, which is, a very funny metaphor, was I need to cut with a lot of things that are going on in Argentina, but it also meant we have to go through deep surgery. We are in a very bad shape, and this is going to be very tough. I'm not promising you a new car. I'm not promising that you will get money, in 6 months. This is going to be brutally painful, and people still voted for that. Let's go to the next slide, please. For the last 80 years, Argentina, and I showed you, has been in decline, moving from crisis to crisis. Milei and his government and his administration, he's definitely going to face a lot of challenges. This is not going to be easy at all. But Milei has one advantage, a major advantage, that everybody who is in this room knows what it is, that classical liberal reforms work. And for the first time, and let's go to the next slide, which is a little bit more optimistic than this one. For the first time in decades, Argentina has a government with the right set of ideas and a population that is committed to accompany that government to do the reforms that are needed for the country. I really believe that the long-awaited renaissance of Argentina has finally begun. Thank you very much.